field, and then he was elected to serve in the Indiana state legislature. And when their second son was born, they named him James Whitcomb, for Governor James Whitcomb, who was father's friend. Next after Jaunty came his little towhead brother, Bud by name, and oh, how white his hair was, and how thick his face with freckles, and his ears how quick and curious and intrusive, and how pale the blue of his big eyes. Their log cabin was small but cozy and bright. It had a big living room, a little kitchen with a huge fireplace, and a low loft upstairs. The loft had such a sloping ceiling that even Jaunty and Bud bumped their heads if they weren't careful. Father had hung corn and beans from the rafters up there, and Mother had stored hard green pears among the hickory nuts and walnuts on the floor. Their vegetables had been stored in the apple hole in the yard. In the fall, Father had dug a hole and lined it with straw. Then they laid cabbages, beets, parsnips, potatoes, and apples on the straw. They covered the vegetables and apples with more straw and piled dirt on top. They left a little opening at one end, which was also covered with straw and loose dirt. Mother was gathering some cabbages and potatoes from the apple hole when, suddenly, heavy raindrops started to fall. Then, almost at once, the rain came down in drenching sheets, blowing across the yard. "Come quickly, boys!" Mother cried as she ran toward the door of the house. She looked back as Jaunty ran toward her, and the other boys ran home. But Bud was still twisting in the swing. "Bud, come on, you are going to get soaked." Bud had twisted again and again until the swing ropes were taut, and he couldn't get out until they untwisted round and round. With the rain in his face, round and round he went. With the rain in his face, round and round he went, until finally the swing slowed and he hopped off. He was so dizzy he had trouble running to the house. Mother held the door and led both boys over to the fireplace hearth to dry. They stood before the open fire, their wet clothes dripping. They rubbed their cold, wet hands and stamped their feet as they dried off. They leaned over to see the kettles and pots hanging on their heavy iron hooks in the fireplace and the hearth oven. Mother had supper almost ready, and there were so many good smells. Mother was a wonderful cook of honey cakes and roasts and puddings and everything else. Mother said, "Stand back, boys, I need to tend my cooking." Jaunty and Bud climbed up on the benches at the table in the kitchen so they could watch their mother preparing supper. With a heavy pot holder, Mother adjusted the crane, swinging the kettle out of the fire and more over the hearth. Hungrily they watched as Mother moved the kettles and pots to just the right place, and then she took the bread out of the hearth oven. It smelled so good. "Can we eat?" Jaunty asked. Bud nodded his head. "We're very hungry." He could almost taste that good bread. Mother smiled. "I know you are. It won't be long. We'll eat as soon as your father comes." "Then tell us a story while we wait." "There is only time for a teensy one," Mother said. Then she began. "Do you see the lid jiggling on the kettle?" Bud nodded. He could see the heavy iron lid dancing up and down on the kettle. Mother went on. "There are little fairies that live in the red-hot embers in the fireplace. Every now and then they like to jump up onto the lid. They dance jigs and cut all kinds of capers. Do you hear their feet tapping away there?" Bud sat with his chin propped on his hands as he watched the lids intently. He listened carefully. Then he heard. He could hear the fairy feet tapping. "Inside the kettle there are other fairies, imps really. They hear the little coal fairies and plan tricks," Mother said softly. "Do you hear them chuckling and whispering? They like to push up on the lid all together. Then what will happen?" "The imps will spill the coal fairies into the fire," laughed Jaunty. Bud frowned. "That isn't very nice of the imps." "It's all in fun, Bud. Remember that the coal fairies live and play in the hot embers of the fire," Mother said. After that, Bud watched carefully to see if the fairies could hold the lid down. When the lid tilted, Bud shouted, "The imps are winning! The imps are winning! Hold on tight, little coal fairies!" He got so excited that Mother lifted the lid off carefully.